David and Jonathan and homosexuality in the ancient Near East. Yeah, what's going on, party people in the place to be? I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? Of course, we got to say what's up to the party people in the chat. My main man, Mr. Green's in the building. We got Mr. Phil Fox, the real American. Excuse me, my goodness, the real American, Mr. Phil Fox is in the building. We got DFC on the check-in. Man, my voice is. Excuse me. Hold up. Holla, holla, holla. All right, cool. We're back in this. What's up? What's going on, Carl? And if you have not yet already, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend that it's him again. And if you like how it goes down at the BK Apologist, you can show your love via PayPal. Or if you like to be a monthly supporter of BK, you could join my Patreon, where you get an assortment of literary delicacies to enhance your personal Bible study. So, hope everybody's doing well. We got Ty Hammer in the building. So we got CP, we got Carly, we got Bodega Lady Dean New on the check-in. That's what's up. So, so, actually, I've had this study that I want to share with you guys for a while, and since it's quote unquote Pride Month, right? I thought it'd be apropos to share this at this time. No, Carly, no, I'm fine. I just had something in my throat. I'm good. I'm good. I'm very good. I'm fine. I'm healthy. Everything's cool. So, but yeah. So as followers of Christ, we get a lot of critiques and accusations. And one of the accusations that we hear from time to time is this alleged homosexual affair between David and Jonathan. And, a argument. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at David and Jonathan, and then we're going to broaden our scope and look at the ancient Near East and ancient Egypt and see what they say about homosexuality. All right. So with that being said, let me share my screen and let's get into it. This is from the Bible and Homosexual Practice, Text and Hermeneutics by Robert A.J. Garnon. And it says here the stories about David and Jonathan in 1 Samuel 18:23 and David's eulogy for Jonathan in 2 Samuel 1. It is sometimes alleged that David and Jonathan had a homosexual relationship with the narrator suppressed. Right? So that's the theory that there was this actual relationship and the redactors try to cover it up, but they didn't do a good enough job because it still comes out in the narrative, right? So let's read the narrative. Let's read it. This First Samuel 18, and it says here, as soon as he had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day and would not let him return to his father's house. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him and gave it to David, and his armor, and even his sword, and his bow, and his belt. And David went out and was successful wherever Saul sent him, so that Saul set him over the men of war. And this was good in the sight of all the people and also in the sight of Saul's servants. David and Jonathan had, in effect, become kin. This is from the paper by Robert Garnon. David and Jonathan had, in effect, become kin. With all the mutual privileges and obligations that such a relationship entails, the two now relate as brothers, not as a romantic couple, as per 2 Samuel 1:26. My brother Jonathan, not my lover Jonathan, my brother Jonathan. right? Mention of the fact that Jonathan's soul, i.e., life, was bound to David's soul, no more expresses erotic love than do the words of Judah to Joseph in Genesis 44 30 to 31. If Judah returns to his father's Jacob without Benjamin, Jacob would die because Jacob's soul is bound up with his. So if you're gonna say they're gay, then I guess Judah and this guy's father were gay too, because they used the same metaphor. But no one ever mentions that, right? No one makes that connection. Why? Because there isn't a connection. There's nothing romantic about what's being said here. The verb kesar usually refers to a binding together of people for political purposes. In effect, in effect, Jonathan is assuring David that he has hitched his fortunes to those of David politically and emotionally. Whatever happens to David happens also to Jonathan. If David hurts, Jonathan hurts. If David rejoices, Jonathan rejoices. Consequently, if David becomes king, Jonathan has every reason to rejoice. All right, let me see what's up in the chat. So we got JP in the building. We got Payne in the building. That's right. All right, cool, cool, cool. I'm glad everybody's here. Um, the relationship between Jonathan and David cannot be divorced from the context of the royal court. Jonathan is the king's son and rightful heir to the throne, but David is God's apparent choice to lead Israel. The two have formed a deeply personal, but nevertheless political alliance. 2 point underscored this. First, the language of love is typical of covenant treaties between an overlord and vassals or between two political rulers of roughly equal power. For example, future vassals of the Assyrian king Assurbanipal were instructed, "You must love him as yourselves." So this was contract language. There wasn't love letters. There's nothing erotic. This is how you spoke to each other when you had a Caesarean vassal treaty, right? Showing your fidelity, your love for your lord. Has nothing to do with sex. All right. The phrase love as one's own soul is closer to the non erotic command in Leviticus 19:18 to, quote, love your neighbor as yourself. The vast majority of the occurrences of the noun love and the verb to love in the Old Testament have nothing to do with erotic love. So when we see the concept of love or to love in the Old Testament, more than likely it has nothing to do with erotic love. Jonathan's act of handing over his robe felt commitment to love David as his own soul and to protect him at any personal cost. It was also an act of political investiture. The passing of arms from the lesser to the greater seems to have had a political implication in the ancient Near East. This was common parlance in the ancient Near East. This is what you did. You gave over your bow, your armor. This is what you did when you had a lord over you. Had nothing to do with sex at all. Let's look at First Samuel 20 now, verse 41. As soon as the boy had gone, David rose from beside the stone heap and fell on his face to the ground and bowed 3 times. And they kissed one another and wept with one another, David weeping the most. Then Jonathan said to David, go in peace, because we have sworn both of us in the name of the Lord, saying, the Lord shall be between me and you, and between my offspring and your offspring forever. And he rose and departed, and Jonathan went into the city. David's threefold bowing to Jonathan speaks to the political overtones of the farewell. David and Jonathan are in extreme distress because Saul's actions have made it clear that he has set his house against the house of David. David and Jonathan know that they might never see one another alive again. Understandably, their departure from each other is emotional, just as it would be between father and son or between two brothers. There is nothing inherently homosexual about two men kissing each other in the ancient Near Eastern society. These were not erotic kisses, but kisses of sorrow that conveyed the deep emotional pain of a committed friendship and alliance cleft by circumstances beyond their control. Of 27 occurrences of the Hebrew verb to kiss, 24 contain no erotic component. Of the three that do, two are from the Song of Solomon, and which is and Proverbs 7:13. Of the 24 that do not, refer to kisses between relatives, usually between father and sons or between brothers. So when you even see this verb, right, most of the time it has nothing to do with romanticism, unless you're talking about Song of Solomon, in which that whole joint, Solomon's kicking that amazing game to his wife, right? So of course he's using it in that way there. But outside of Song of Solomon, when you see this verb to kiss, it's usually referring to relatives, fathers and sons, family. You know what I mean? So four refer to two unrelated males kissing, again with no sexual connotation. And we see the scriptures here, right? Joseph joyously kissing and weeping upon his brother after revealing his true identity, right? In Genesis, right? When Joseph revealed himself to the other, what's it, the 11 tribes, right? 11 tribes. That was not an erotic event. Nobody looks at that and says, "Ew, something's going on here." You know what I mean? So it's like we see this throughout the Old Testament, and we see that it has no erotic undertones whatsoever, right? Which also includes David and Jonathan. So, 2 Samuel 1:26. I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. Very pleasant have you been to me. Your love to me has extraordinarily surpassing the love of women. So people see that and be like, see, he loves him more than a woman. Therefore, this is a homosexual relationship, right? Jonathan's repeated display of non sexual kindness to David at a time when Jonathan was in a position of power, selfishly risking his own life and certainly his own kingdom, surpassed anything David had ever known from a committed erotic relationship with a woman. No more and no less than this is the point of David's eulogy to his dear friend. David subsequently lived up to his covenant agreement with Jonathan by restoring the fortune of Jonathan's crippled son. None of these texts, taken singly or as a collective whole, provide persuasive support for a homosexual relationship between Jonathan and David. On no occasion does the narrator ever refer to sexual intercourse between David and Jonathan. The verbs to lie or to know are never employed. So the words you would use to describe something erotic is never used in this narrative. And the words and things that are done here are done. It's political. It's not erotic in nature. It's political in nature. The bowing down, the giving of armor. These are things that you did for political reasons, for forming alliances and covenants with one another. Has nothing to do with being homosexual at all. So now let's look at homosexuality in the ancient Near East. So we get a feel for how the rest of the known world at that time viewed homosexuality. Because we know what the Bible says about it, right? But let's see outside of the Bible, right? In the ancient Near East, one cannot speak either of uniform approval or uniform disapproval. Viewpoints varied among different population groups, ethnic, socioeconomic, religious, and during different periods of history. Unfortunately, laws regulating homosexual practice can be found in only one legal code, the Middle Assyrian laws. Since no legal codes from Egypt have survived, nothing can be concluded from the absence of specific regulations there. So I want to be clear. The writer's not saying that Egypt didn't have a written code. Is that we haven't found any copies of a legal code, right? So we don't want to say that Egypt never had a legal code. We do have decorations and decrees from the pharaohs, but we don't have a legal code from ancient Egypt. Doesn't mean they didn't have one. We just haven't found a copy of one. All right, just want to just put it out there before people think you know. So I want to be fair. Okay, the two Middle Assyrian laws that pertain to same-sex intercourse characterize lying with a man as an inherently degrading act for the male who's anally penetrated. Notice who's the one that gets in trouble during a homosexual uh, event. It's the person being penetrated, not the person doing the penetrating. Okay. To be known as a man with whom many other men have slept could severely damage one's standing in the community. So much so that a man who falsely accused another man of such was liable to castration. Homosexual rape was also grounds for castration. The implication of the penalty is that the man who played the female role in the male male intercourse. So here in these laws, it was the man who received the homosexual event. That's the person that's guilty, not the person who was the aggressor. Right? Very, very interesting here. Um, you know what? Let me cut through this one. Actually, you know what? No, let me go. The teachings of Visor Ptahhotep. The date of this teaching has been much discussed, and the attribution to the 12th dynasty is not universally accepted. Here it is sufficient to note that even if it were composed earlier, it was certainly part of the Middle Kingdom literary canon. Teachings are, by their nature, the most idolizing and topical of literary genres, but they are placed in a fictional frame. In any case, Ptahhotep displays an awareness of the imperfections of individual life, most obviously in the description of an old age afflicting even a virtuous man. Teachings do not embody the virtues of an ideal life as simply as official autobiographies, and they dwell more extensively on possible dangers and failings. Okay, this is from Homosexual Desire and Middle Kingdom Literature by R.P. Parkinson from the Journal of Egyptian Archaeology, volume 81. So let's continue. The 32nd maxim of Ptahhotep in the version of P. Parisi reads, "May you not have sex with a woman boy, for you know that what is opposed will be water upon his breast. There is no coolness, i.e., relief, for what is in his belly, i.e., his appetite. Let him not spend the night doing what is opposed. He shall be cool after destroying, i.e., renouncing his desire." As I understand the passage, Ptahhotep argues that the nocturnal activities of the woman boy cannot bring the relief of his desire. The imagery of coolness recalls the erotic relief found by Senefru in watching fair maidens rowing in the tale of King Cheop's court. Water upon the breast seems to be a related image for the relief he desires. For true relief, however, the boy must renounce his desire. That is a possible ambiguity in the final phrase, as desire can also be conscience. Destroying the heart is the opposite of following the heart, which is recommended in the earlier maxim. Such ambiguity, if deliberate, may give a sense of the boy's moral confusion, but does not alter the general thrust of the maxim. So Ptahhotep here is telling this young man not to deal with this woman boy. Now, why would he say don't mess with this woman boy unless this was a thing that occurred in Egypt, right? There's this whole idea of transsexuality is not new, right? It's been happening since time immemorial. And Ptahhotep is warning this man not to try to satisfy his desire with this woman boy, right? So there's something here going on in ancient Egypt, and Ptahhotep is not having it, and he's warning this young man not to engage in such activities. Now, going back to Robert A.J. Ganon, A positive metaphorical use of homosexual imagery in relation to the gods could be found in coffin texts. For example, quote, I will swallow for myself the phallus of Re, and his, the earth god Geb's phallus is between the buttocks of his son and heir. All right, this is from Faulkner, the ancient Egyptian coffin text. All right, so swallowing for myself the phallus of Re. Right? Yes, this is metaphor, this is symbolic, but man, this is, as we would say today, it sounds very sus. Okay. Another coffin text, through uses the metaphor of same-sex penetration to express fearlessness regarding a god's ability to do him harm. The god Atum has no power over me, for I copulate between his buttocks. Pause. A yo. All right. This is in the coffin text. Now remember, the coffin text, these are a list of spells that protects you as you travel through the Duat to get to the afterlife. This is one of the spells. A tomb has no power over me, for I copulate between his buttocks. Yes, it's symbolic, it's metaphorical. But metaphors is what? Is ways to describe things so that the hearer or the audience can understand, because it's you're using things that they are familiar with, right? So that's what makes this even more interesting, because to use these type of metaphors in this culture says a lot about the culture itself, right? That for them to understand how to get to the afterlife, they can only understand it through these type of similes and metaphors, right? So again, yes, it's a symbolic, yeah, but it is very telling of that culture that this is how they perceived the spiritual realm in a very carnal fashion, right? Yes, Tyler Lott, ill is right. Ill is right. In one version of the myth of Horus and Seth, the gods are deliberating about which of the brothers should rule Egypt. When Seth reveals that he had played the male role with Horus successfully, ejaculating his semen between Horus' buttocks. I know, it sounds crazy. While the latter was asleep, the god screamed aloud and belched and spat on Horus' face. However, Horus is able to turn the tables on Seth by mixing some of the sperm in Seth's food. All right, this is from Grayson and Redford, Papyrus and Tablet 76. So this is a power struggle between these two gods, and they're using this erotic, same-sex behavior as a way of getting back at one another. Right? Crazy. The temple inscriptions at Edfu from the Ptolemaic period convey a similar theme. Horus eats lettuce whose juice is identified with semen so that he can ejaculate into Seth's anus. Both accounts are primarily about aggression, not homosexual desires, so that he can ejaculate into Seth's partner, right? So that's what's going on. There's this fight, and one is trying to punk the other. So they're weaponizing sex, right? So if I can penetrate you, that means I am dominant and that you should feel shame because you've been penetrated, right? Textual evidence shows that Egypt did not witness any sense of categorization by sexuality, but that sexual acts between men were acknowledged to occur. In official discourse, these were not normally formulated in terms of sexual relationships, but rather as the denigration of a weaker male. So when somebody in the conscious community says, well, that we condemn homosexuality, in ancient Kemet? Yes and no. Yes and no. Right? They condemn you receiving the homosexual act. But if you was the aggressor, then you're showing your power. You're showing your dominance over the other man. Right. It's prison pillow talk. Right. It's you hear this same type of ideology in prison. It's not that I'm gay, it's that I just need to show him who's boss. Right. But we look at that as like, nah, homie, both you dudes is sus. Right. But again, right, it's good for us to understand that when the conscious community says there was no homosexuality going on in ancient Kemet, they're kind of right. They're kind of right. You know what I mean? So they're not telling you the whole truth. Only the person that's being penetrated is condemned, not the one doing the penetrating. Even on the God level, Horus and Seth, right? They're they're literally trying to outdo one another on the spiritual plane. But again, right, the metaphors and similes to describe how the unseen realm operates in ancient Kemet says a lot about the people there, right? So active participation did not compromise a man's proper gender role. Sexual desire between men, however, was also recognized, and the low key presentation of the relationship in the tale of Nakare and Sesenet implies that there were liaisons between men in elite circles despite public disapproval. Such desire was not articulated in official public discourse and was presumably condemned. However, it was not suppressed from all forms of cultural discourse and was articulated in what we now term literature. Okay. So the Levitical laws, however, criminalize not only the behavior of all homosexual rapists, but also the behavior of both partners in the consensual act of same sex intercourse. Both have committed an abominable act. They also applied the same sanctions to Israelite and resident alien alike and made no concessions for homosexual intercourse with a person of unequal social status. According to the Middle Assyrian laws, the maximum penalty for homosexual libel and homosexual rape was castration, in addition to blows with a rod, fines, and a limited period of forced labor. In the Levitical laws, the penalty for homosexual intercourse was death for both the passive partner, presumably consenting, and the active partner, whether the acting with the consent of the passive partner or not. So we see in Kemet, the only one that's really condemned is the one being penetrated. But in Leviticus, both these dudes die. No castration, no fines, no forced labor, dirt naps. That's what you get, right? And the Torah wasn't playing with any of that. Both you dudes got to go. The level at which the Levitical laws stigmatize and criminalize all homosexual intercourse, while not discontinuous with some trends elsewhere, goes far beyond anything else currently known in the ancient Near East. Sort of all the legal codes and laws that we have in the ancient Near East when it comes to homosexuality, it's the Bible that's up front and be like, both you dudes got to go. If you engage in this practice, the penalty is you lose your life. Not just the receiver, also the giver. Doesn't matter if one was a slave, the other one was a prince. None of that matters. If you're engaging in this activity according to Leviticus, you're out of here. It's a wrap for both of you. Gone. Pick a date, your history. You know what I mean? It's like that's it. So again, right? And also You could also use this to show, well, we're not plagiarizing Kemet here. Because they always like to say that we're plagiarizing. Like, well, there's no plagiarism going on here, buddy. Because you guys make concessions when it comes to same-sex events. We do not. That's not happening over here. All right. So David and Jonathan did not have any kind of erotic same-sex relationship at all, based on the wording, which is interesting, right? Because people have made the accusation because of certain words. But the actual words actually show the antithesis of that. It's political in nature. It was an alliance, it was a covenant. It had nothing to do with sex. But since we're going to talk about sex and homosexuality, what's going on over there? That's interesting, right? You make concessions like, well, as long as you're the aggressor, you're good. But the one receiving, shame on him. So are you really against homosexuality over there? Really? Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. But the Bible is very clear. No shenanigans are happening on this side of town. So I thought that would be interesting to share with you guys. So again, when they make the claim that David and Jonathan had an affair, you could walk them through the actual wording, and the wording actually proves that they did not. And you can start asking them what's going on in the ancient Kemet there, buddy. And if they say, "Oh, we condemn homosexuality," like, did you now? Did you really? Did you really? And in fact, when you look at the ancient Near East, it's the Bible that really goes out of its way to condemn homosexuality in its entirety. Now, let me say this as a caveat. Am I saying that we should kill people who are same-sex attracted today? No. No. No Christian wants to see anyone be put to death. All right, so let's put out there. People who engage in that activity, they are still imagers of God. They have intrinsic worth, and we are to love them for the imagers of God that they are. Right? We're talking Old Testament, right? We're not talking New Covenant. We are not to be violent towards anyone who decides to live that particular lifestyle. We are to love them. We need to love them because Christ loved them. Christ died for them too. So we are not to look at them any different. Because unfortunately, with Christians, we like to look at homosexuality as if that's like the top sin. It's that and abortion. Those are the two main ones. It's like, wait, 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 wait. Sin separates us from God, not specific sins. Sin, period. And all it takes is one sin to separate yourself from God. So you might not struggle with same-sex attractiveness, but you do struggle with some sort of sin. So let's not play holier than thou. We're all sinners. The difference is believers are redeemed, and we're no longer in the business of sinning. Right? We're still going to sin, but we're no longer in the business. We don't clock in and work at the sin factory anymore. Okay? But that's through God being charitable and gracious with us by giving us the gift of Him dying on the cross. You know, thank you so much for the super chat. Definitely appreciate it. So I just want to put it out there, right? We are to love all humans, no matter what they're going through, no matter what orientation they believe they are in. We are to love them because they are fellow images of God. And it's going to be through that love that hopefully they will see God's love and they will come and become part of God's family. right? We always need to leave hope for everyone, right? So this was just a defense against the accusation of, David and Jonathan, and taking a peep over the other side of town to see how they deal with homosexuality. Because the Bible's very clear how they dealt with it in the Old Testament, right? But again, I just want to reiterate, we are to love everyone regardless of where they're at in their lives. And sin is sin. Right now, sin have now sin different sins do have different repercussions, right? Me cheating on my taxes and someone else killing someone, those are both sins, but have very different repercussions, though. But they're both sin. Me being deceitful and the other person being a murderer, yes, we're both sinning, but the repercussions are vastly different, right? So I just want to make sure that I'm clear that we are to love those who are in these type of situations. All right. So with that being said, guys, that's it. I just want to share that. Hopefully you found it edifying. And make sure that you find yourself back on the channel this coming Sunday at 9 Eastern Standard Time, or EDT. I always get the two confused. Nate always checks me and corrects me, so he'll put in the chat if it's EST or EDT. Um, So we're gonna have our Juneteenth special, and we're gonna have hopefully we're gonna have the whole bodega crew in the building, and we're gonna have a good time just celebrating, the emancipation of enslaved African Americans, and what does that mean for us as believers? This Matthew said EBT. This dude can't take cousin nowhere. See this? See this? Thank you, Nate. It's EDT. So this guy puts EST. Everybody got jokes now. Everybody got jokes. But yeah, so please tell everyone to come through this Sunday at 9 EDT so we can all celebrate Juneteenth together. All right. Also, the Bodega ladies are having a giveaway on that video on that Sunday. Check your Instagram and FB pages for details on how to enter. And the Bodega ladies will be in the building. In fact, is you guys will be celebrating your second year anniversary. Am I correct? Ask the Bodega ladies, Michelle. I think that's so. Another reason to come through is to just celebrate and show love to the Bodega ladies. Such an amazing and much needed crew of highly intelligent Black women who not only understand sound doctrine but can articulate it in a compelling and engaging way. They are a force to be reckoned with. And I always tell people, it's like the problem isn't me, Adam, and the rest of the fellas. The problem is the ladies. Don't let the ladies come for you. It's gonna be a problem. They all carry double-edged swords in their Birkin bags. It's like it's not fair. It's not fair. You know what I mean? It's like they get busy. Don't be scared of us. Be scared of them. They got a sniper and the whole nine in that crew. It's not for play over there. All right. So, but yeah. You see, Benjamin, we keep hearing this nonsense. I'm retired. Yeah. All right, John Wick. So the ladies will jump you biblically, pretty much. They'll jump believers too if you act up. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. Yes, the ladies are definitely assassins. Nope, we will send thoughts and prayers. Well, you do that too while the bloodletting occurs. I agree. I agree. You guys will be doing that as well. You guys know how to multitask. That's true, Tyler. They have a sniper and a ninja. They definitely jump believers. Facts. Factory. You know what I mean? They catch you slipping. It won't be good for you. I'm telling you. So, but all right, guys. So again, hopefully we'll see you this Sunday at 9 EDT. Come through, hang out with us, the Bodega Ladies, as we celebrate them and Juneteenth, and just enjoy each other's company, right? So, with that, I bid you all a fair good evening. Peace.